Let's talk about the giant ball of fire in the sky that's currently losing its mind. The world is changing fast, and here are the 9 things you missed about the sun. It turns out our star is way more violent than we ever imagined. Number 9 is the discovery of the magnetic avalanche. For decades, we thought solar flares were just random explosions of energy, but the solar orbiter just sent back data that completely flips the script. Scientists have finally witnessed what they call a magnetic avalanche in real time. It starts with a tiny spark in the sun's lower atmosphere. This spark isn't much on its own, but it creates a massive snowball effect. Think of it like a single pebble starting a landslide on a mountain. The first spark destabilizes the magnetic field lines right next to it. Those lines snap and release energy, which triggers the next set of lines. Within seconds, thousands of these tiny magnetic loops are breaking in a chain reaction. This isn't just one big boom, but a trillion micro-explosions happening at once. By the time the avalanche reaches the outer layer, it's a full-blown solar flare. It's the difference between a single firework and a literal mountain of TNT. This discovery explains why flares can grow so large so incredibly fast. It also means the sun's surface is much more fragile than we thought. One small glitch in the magnetic field can lead to a global communication blackout. The sun isn't just sitting there, it's a ticking time bomb of magnetic tension. Number 8 is the mystery of the raining plasma blobs. The sun is officially leaking, and it's actually a bit gross to look at. New high-resolution imagery from 2026 shows something scientists are calling coronal rain. But these aren't small drops of water like we have on Earth. We are talking about superheated blobs of plasma the size of Great Britain. These blobs condense in the sun's outer atmosphere where it's surprisingly cooler. Then they succumb to gravity and start falling back down to the surface. They don't just fall quietly, they scream down at over 200,000 miles per hour. As these massive plasma drops hit the solar surface, they create giant splashes. These splashes send shockwaves across the entire sun that last for hours. The visual data shows these raindrops following magnetic field lines like a cosmic train track. It looks like glowing liquid fire sliding down invisible roller coaster rails. But here is the weird part about the rain. It's hitting the surface much harder than the sun's gravity should allow. Something is literally pushing these blobs down from the top. Scientists think it's related to the magnetic avalanche we just talked about. The energy from the snapping lines is acting like a giant piston. It's slamming the plasma back down and heating the sun's surface even more. If you were standing there, you'd see a sky filled with glowing red boulders. And each one of them is hot enough to vaporize a diamond instantly. Number 7 is the half-light speed launch. This is where things go from scary science to impossible physics. During the latest solar storm, particles were clocked moving at insane speeds. We are talking about electrons being kicked off the sun at 400 million miles per hour. That is roughly 60% of the speed of light. At that speed, you could travel from the Earth to the moon in about 2 seconds. Physics says things this heavy shouldn't be able to move that fast. But the magnetic avalanche acts like a giant particle accelerator. It's basically a natural version of the Large Hadron Collider, but way bigger. When the magnetic ropes snap, they create a massive electric field. This field grabs the charged particles and yeets them into deep space. These stealth particles are a nightmare for our satellites. Because they move so fast, we get almost zero warning before they hit us. By the time our sensors see the flare, the particles are already here. They punch right through the metal shielding of our GPS satellites. This causes bit flipping, where the computer's memory just randomizes itself. One minute your car's GPS works and the next it thinks you're in the ocean. The 2026 data shows these high-speed launches are happening way more often. Our star is basically shooting cosmic bullets at us every single day. It's a good thing we have a magnetic field, or we'd be toast. Number 6 is the 40-minute warning. For the last 50 years, space weather prediction has been terrible. We basically had to wait for the explosion to happen. It was like trying to predict a hurricane only after your roof blew off. But the new solar avalanche data has changed the game entirely. Scientists noticed a distinct pattern before the main eruption actually started. About 40 minutes before the flare went off, the magnetic field started to wiggle. They call these precursor brightenings in the extreme ultraviolet spectrum. It acts exactly like the ocean receding before a massive tsunami hits. Small pockets of gas started glowing brighter and brighter in a specific rhythm. This 40-minute window is the holy grail for satellite operators. If we can automate this detection, we can save billions of dollars. 40 minutes is enough time to put a satellite into safe mode. It is enough time to tell astronauts on the moon to get into shelter. Before this discovery, the lead time was practically zero. The solar orbiter caught this by staring at the same spot for days. The data shows the magnetic pressure building up like a shaken soda can. You can literally see the metal can expanding before it bursts. This isn't just a random event, it is a choreographed countdown. The sun is practically screaming at us that it is about to blow. We just never knew how to listen to the language until now. This warning system could be the difference between life and death in space. Number 5 is the twisted magnetic ropes. Most people imagine magnetic fields as invisible straight lines, but on the sun they look more like tangled headphones in your pocket. The latest high-resolution images have revealed massive structures called flux ropes. These are thick bundles of magnetic field lines twisted together. Imagine a giant cable made of pure energy rising out of the surface. The sun's rotation drags these ropes and twists them tighter and tighter. It is exactly like winding up the rubber band on a model airplane. You can only wind it so many times before the energy has to go somewhere. The visuals show these ropes braiding themselves into knots. As the tension builds, the ropes start to rise higher into the atmosphere. They form massive shaped curves that astronomers call sigmoids. When you see in shape on the sun, you know trouble is coming. Eventually, the tension becomes too great for the structure to hold. The rope snaps violently and whips out into the solar system. This snapping motion is what flings the plasma out into space. It creates a coronal mass ejection, which is basically a space hurricane. The force of this snap releases more energy than every nuclear weapon on Earth, and it all comes from invisible lines getting tied in a knot. Number 4 is the central engine revealed. Scientists have argued for decades about where exactly the energy comes from. Is it coming from the surface or from high up in the corona? The 2026 data has pinpointed the exact location of the explosion. They found a region called the current sheet, which acts as the central engine. This is a thin layer where magnetic fields pointing in opposite directions meet. Think of it like touching a positive wire to a negative wire. It creates a continuous sheet of lightning that can stay lit for hours. This engine is what drives the magnetic avalanche we talked about earlier. It takes magnetic energy and converts it directly into heat and light. The solar orbiter looked right into the heart of this engine. It saw temperatures jumping from 1 million to 20 million degrees instantly. The engine doesn't just burn steady, it sputters and coughs. It releases energy in jagged pulses rather than a smooth stream. This explains why solar flares look so flickering and chaotic. The engine is constantly tearing itself apart and rebuilding itself. It creates dark fingers of empty space that fall back down to the sun. These are voids where all the plasma has been completely evacuated. Seeing this engine in action confirms our theories about magnetic reconnection. The sun is basically a giant fusion reactor with a leaky containment field, and now we finally know exactly where the leak is coming from. Number 3 is the solar U-turns. The Parker Solar Probe just pulled off the most daring dive in history. It flew closer to the sun than any object has ever gone before, and the data it sent back has physicists scratching their heads. The probe detected magnetic fields doing literal U-turns in space. Scientists are calling them switchbacks, and they are everywhere. Imagine you are driving down a straight highway at 60 miles per hour. Suddenly, the road loops back on itself like a roller coaster track. Then it immediately snaps back to being straight again. These magnetic switchbacks happen in a matter of seconds. The magnetic field literally folds over on itself like a whip. When this happens, the plasma flow completely reverses direction. For a few seconds, the solar wind blows back towards the sun. This creates a massive amount of turbulence and energy release. It's like trying to paddle a canoe up a waterfall. These switchbacks might be the secret to why the corona is so hot. The sun's surface is around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but the atmosphere above it is millions of degrees hotter. That's like walking away from a campfire and getting burned. The whipping motion of these switchbacks dumps energy into the atmosphere. It's a violent magnetic mosh pit happening right above the surface, and our probe is flying right through the middle of it. Number 2 is the solar conveyor belt. We used to think the sun's magnetic cycle was a slow process. Every 11 years, the poles flip and the sun calms down. But the 2026 data shows a mechanism that is speeding everything up. Scientists have mapped a massive current of plasma deep inside the sun. It acts exactly like a conveyor belt at a grocery store checkout. This current drags old magnetic fields from the equator to the poles. Once they get to the poles, they sink down into the core. Then they get recycled and pop back up as new sunspots. The scary part is that this belt is moving way faster than predicted. It's running at double the speed of previous solar cycles. This means the sun is recycling its magnetic trash much faster. A faster conveyor belt means a more violent and unpredictable solar cycle. It explains why this current solar maximum is so incredibly intense. The sun is basically hyperventilating and we are in the splash zone. This current is so powerful it actually changes the shape of the sun. The sun isn't a perfect sphere, it's slightly squashed at the top, and this conveyor belt is the reason for that deformation. It's a river of fire that determines the fate of our solar system. Number 1 is the Carrington 2.0 risk. All of these discoveries point to one terrifying conclusion. We are statistically overdue for a massive solar superstorm. The last time a big one hit was the Carrington event in 1859. Back then it just set some telegraph wires on fire and looked pretty. Telegraph operators reported sparks flying out of their machines. But today, way, a storm of that size would be an apocalypse. We have built our entire civilization on a fragile electric grid. A Carrington-level flare would induce massive currents in our power lines. It would melt the giant transformers that power our cities. These transformers take months or even years to build and replace. If they melt, we go back to the Stone Age instantly. No internet, no banking, no refrigeration, and no running water. The magnetic avalanche proves these storms can happen without warning. The fast conveyor belt proves the sun is more active than ever. And the switchbacks prove there is way more energy than we thought. The probability of a superstorm hitting Earth in the next decade is rising. It is currently estimated at around 12% per decade. That might sound low, but it's basically Russian roulette with the sun. So while the auroras look beautiful, remember what they really are. They are the visual scream of our planet's shield holding the line. So there you have it, the sun is waking up. It isn't just a warm light bulb in the sky. It is a chaotic monster that breathes fire. And right now, it is screaming at the top of its lungs. We are lucky to be 93 million miles away, but as we just learned, that distance might not be enough. If you enjoyed this deep dive into solar chaos, hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if you think we are doomed. I will see you in the next video. Stay safe out there.